Before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. Although we are therapists, this podcast is not therapy and does not replace working with your own therapist. Everything shared here is for general education and conversation only.
Welcome to Two Anxious Girls. I am Dobby,
And I'm Christina.
and we are two therapists who spend 40 hours a week helping people navigate their lives and the other 128 hours wondering if we are doing ours completely wrong.
Thriving.
It gets me every time. 100%. 100%.
Tabby, I was going to say, people are going to think the laugh is part of it, but I love that you laugh every time.
No, the laugh is real. And if you know me personally, I'm always laughing. Anyhow.
How are you?
I am good. I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. But before anything else, I just need to publicly acknowledge something.
Uh-oh.
Last episode, I said, let's wrap it up 3 separate times. 3. I will try to limit myself once per episode. And that, my friends, is what anxiety looks like in real time.
We love growth, Dobby.
Yes, we do. And we really take growth very seriously. You told me when we wrapped up last time, hey, you said this 3 times. So I'm limiting myself. I will try only to say it once towards the end when we're ready.
That's funny.
Okay. And with that out of the way, how are you?
I'm doing well. I actually am doing well. I had a little cold last week, actually, but I finally feel like myself again. And I had a nice reset. So I'm feeling pretty good. And you're okay today?
I am happy to hear that. Yes, I also had a cold. I feel a little tiny bit responsible for yours. So I'm glad that
No.
you're feeling better.
Not at all.
Yeah. All right. With that said, let's dive into it. Today's episode, it's all about the spiral, not only the segment, but the spiral and therapists who spiral. So it's very on brand for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyhow, with that said, there's an assumption that if you understand emotional health, if you understand mental health, you must be immune to the emotional struggle that comes. And that's very far from the truth. Like if you know your overactivated amygdala is causing your anxiety, you should be less anxious. And that doesn't happen.
Yeah. It's almost like if we know something, that means we're protected from it.
And sometimes knowing more actually makes the spiral worse because now you're narrating your breakdown in real time.
That's so true, Dobby, because if I'm having a spiral moment, I'll name it. I'll be like, okay, cool, you're catastrophizing. Or, okay, cool, your abandonment fear is kicking in. Or this is an emotional flashback, but I'm still crying at the same time. So even though I know it's going on, it doesn't make it better.
Yes, you are spiraling, but clinically because you're naming everything that you're feeling.
Right.
Anyhow, that's why they do say that ignorance is bliss.
True. That's very
Yeah.
true.
Okay. So that takes us to the self-aware spiral. So let's try to normalize it. And that is the goal of today. We want to normalize the therapist spirals because we do. And people who are self-aware, they tend to be the ones who spiral the most.
Yeah. And insight doesn't necessarily eliminate feeling emotions. We can still be deeply aware and deeply overwhelmed. Kind of what you were saying. I don't know if it was last episode or the episode before, that 2 things can be true.
I say that all the time, Christina.
Yeah, I love it. I love that saying.
Yes, the therapist spiral can often look like overanalyzing every emotion, trying to solve feelings instead of feeling them, getting frustrated when tools don't work instantly, thinking awareness should have prevented the pain.
Yeah, that really speaks to me. And sometimes we probably delay getting help because we think we, quote, should be able to handle it, right?
Absolutely. And meanwhile, your nervous system is like, I don't care how self-aware you are.
Mhm.
We're
Yeah.
still feeling this.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of brings us into what we should talk about, the double shame layer.
Yeah. Because as therapists, we do feel that the I should know better shame, which respectfully, it's brutal.
Yeah. I feel like I constantly, and we talk about this a lot, Debbie, like the thought of I help people through this. Why can't I fix myself? Or why can't I make myself feel less sad or less anxious if this is my job?
Yeah. But we do need to remember that helping others uses different brain systems than surviving your own emotions. When you yourself are activated, your prefrontal cortex, the wise, rational part of your brain, is not running the show. It's the
Yeah,
amygdala.
seriously. So pretty much we can be wise for everybody else and completely feeling flooded inside.
Yeah. And that doesn't make you a fraud. It makes you human because we all do experience that.
Yeah, and that brings us to talking about why insight doesn't necessarily mean regulation. So insight is cognitive, regulation is psychological. How do you feel about that?
I agree with you. I would also say that it's physiological, like we feel it in our bodies. That's what regulation really is about.
Yeah,
Um, you can know that you're safe while your body feels like you are not. And even though people roll their eyes when one says, just breathe, it works. We say this because grounding yourself works. The
yeah.
kids nowadays call it touching grass or touch grass.
Yes, I've been hearing that, Dobby.
But yes, what we're trying to say here is, and we have said this several times, the main problem when we feel dysregulated is that our mind and our body are not connecting. And if our body is not feeling safe, we are going to have a reactive response. And our mind is going to say, you're not safe, you're anxious, you're spiraling, everything is going wrong. And we go into that rabbit hole that it's very hard to get out of. But sometimes all we have to do is just bring ourselves back to the present moment, take a deep breath, remember yourself where you are, and you're safe.
Yeah, yeah. And as you mentioned earlier, our amygdala kind of takes over, and that's when the irrational thoughts come in. And for example, say you're in a relationship that's really stable, you still have that abandonment panic. Or I'm thinking about our anxiety resumes again, Dobby. For example, if you're at the dentist, although you logically know you are safe and you probably won't have a panic attack again, that fear automatically kicks in.
That's a great example. Every time I go to the dentist, yes, I do get through it and I sit through it and I I tell myself I'm safe and I'm okay and I'm breathing. It just feels very tense in my body, so that's why I try to avoid it. But yes, we make it happen.
Agreed.
And you can know that you did not fail and still feel shame. You can feel two things at once. And the same, that's, I can use a dentist example. I am very anxious about going to the dentist. I get through it anyway, but I still do feel shame that I feel this way, that I even have those thoughts of being fearful of going to the dentist.
Yeah. As a therapist, quote, we should know better, right? But you are human and I hear you. Because even when, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example for me. The whole bathroom situation, that was on my resume. Every time I'm in public, the thought of having to run to the bathroom crosses my mind because of one time that I had a not so great experience. So it happens to the best of us. And regulation is slow, it's repetitive, it's body based. And honestly, it could be really annoying sometimes.
Yes. And again, it's deeply inconvenient that breathing exercises do work. So let's
Yeah.
put more reminders on our calendars to breathe intentionally and to be present in the moment. It doesn't work with the bathroom situation, but it does work with almost everything else.
It might though. It might because when I get anxious, I notice that I'm holding my breath and then that leads to the negative spiral and then my stomach is affected and you know what happens after that. So it might actually work. Let's talk about
It
the
could.
exhaustion of being the emotionally smart one.
Yeah. There is burnout in being the emotionally intelligent one.
Yeah. I mean, our professions are to listen to people's venting, right? But also in our lives, we might find that people tend to come to us to vent to. Mind you, I love it. I love my family. I love my friends. I'll always be there for them. But that could be exhausting for people who explain behavior, the one who de-escalates conflict, right?
Yeah. The one who understands everyone's trauma responses
Yeah. And sometimes we probably don't get to be messy or irrational.
or overwhelmed. And
Mhm.
sometimes you just want someone else to have the answers, not necessarily you.
Yeah. Imagine a world, Debbie, that we would get to be the not regulated ones.
Or to be the messy ones.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, to allow ourselves to be irrational. This is quite heavy because it is exhausting, not only with family, but also in the workplace or
Mhm.
in many different environments. It's many things in life are a choice, and we do choose to be as grounded as possible. And as you choose to be grounded, you develop emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And that response is always expected from you. There are other people who can crash, let's say a toddler. Yeah, they can because they still haven't developed emotional intelligence. But what we are discussing here is how there are so many adults out there that still cannot manage their own emotions, and we need to be the emotionally intelligent ones. We need to be the adults. We have to be the ones that stay grounded and collected, even when things are upsetting.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about here. And it is quite emotionally draining. But with that,
Yeah.
should we go into our confessions of the week?
Yeah. I feel like we both just confessed that we don't always have it all together, but what's
We
the
never
practice
do.
what you preach?
Well, well, I think that I do speak for both of us when I say we never do. We don't have it together. We're both a work in
Absolutely.
progress. I say this to my clients. I say this to absolutely everyone. We are a work in progress. We're just trying to do our best here.
Amen. That's all you can do.
Okay, so with that, let me think for a second about this past week. I would say that I have plenty, like always. And like today's topic, I have been very anxious about different things lately. And sometimes I just forget to breathe and bring myself back into the present moment. All my worries are about future events, not about the present, not about the here and now. So I know I'm sounding very preachy today, but it's true.
No, I was gonna say, Dobby, it's almost like you're in my mind because I was gonna say the same thing. And also, if anybody knows Dobby, they know that Dobby always says, "Just breathe." Whenever I have an issue or I need to vent to you, Dobby, you always tell me to just breathe, and sometimes truly that's all that needs to be done, and it really does help me. So, yeah, I think mine is pretty similar to you. I think I do remember telling a client to slow down and rest, and then, I find myself stress cleaning, stress snacking, and so, yeah, practice what I preach. That was my big fail of the week.
Yeah. And with that said, I don't want to simplify all of our issues with just breathing, but breathing helps. Breathing is the first
Yeah,
step, and then we focus on solutions.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, with that, let's go into our therapy insights and what actually helps when you know too much. And with that said, I would say number one is remember that we are human. Remember that you are a person. Allow yourself to just be that, be a person and not a textbook, not Dr. Google.
yeah, and just trying to let ourselves feel our emotions before analyzing them, even if that's 60 seconds. I wish we could show that emotion wheel, Dobby, because I love it. Where, it's not just good, bad, happy, sad, it really goes deeper into the emotions because I think a lot of times if we were just to recognize how we're feeling, recognize our feeling before trying to analyze it, I think that could really help.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also allow someone else to hold space for you sometimes. That's okay.
Yeah, I learned this the hard way, postpartum, again. It's so important. People say it takes a village, and I have never understood that more because it's truly so true. You cannot do it alone. It is okay to need help, and it is okay to acknowledge, "Hey, I can't do this by myself." And I definitely learned that the hard way, but I'm happy that I did finally learn it.
Yeah. And I just wanted to mention that we will have a future episode that it's all about you and your postpartum journey and just to share it with other moms out there that they're
Yeah,
not alone and that
and it's not
postpartum
talked about
anxiety is
enough.
real.
Yeah,
Oh no.
so
Yeah,
real.
not at all. But with that said, yes. When you were talking about, sorry, I lost my train of thought. When you were
That's okay.
talking about when you were talking about asking for help to feel supported, that is very true. And sometimes the most healing thing is not insight. It is someone saying, yeah, that makes sense that you feel that way. Like just validating your feelings and meeting you where you were at.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So if we could
And
reframe the idea that we're acknowledging we're not gonna not spiral again. We're gonna
it's
try
never
to
happening.
reframe it. The goal is it to never spiral.
Yeah. Now let's reframe today's topic. As you said, the goal isn't to never spiral. It's to spiral with less shame. That is the goal.
Yeah. And then that probably could allow us to recover faster
And to
and
ask for
trust.
self. Mhm. Oh,
Say
I'm
it.
sorry. I was just going to say to ask for help sooner, as you mentioned earlier.
Yes. And to trust that we can survive it and you will survive it.
Absolutely. And with that, growth isn't the absence of spiraling. Spiraling is part of growth, and it's the way you come back. Always remember you are human too.
Human. And what helps us remain human is our guilty pleasures and our anxiety wins.
Yeah. And that's, oh my God. When I just said what truly matters is how we come back, not to stay stuck. And for me, it's always with a guilty pleasure. It really
Of
helps me
course.
ground myself.
Absolutely. What else helps? When in doubt, practice a guilty pleasure.
Yeah. So, with that, what was your anxiety win of this week?
I think my anxiety win, and I was thinking about this before we filmed because I wanted to make sure I had it ready. I said no to something I absolutely could have forced myself to do. What that thing was, cleaning the kitchen before going to bed. Thinking about anxiety, if I wake up to a dirty, messy kitchen, I think I learned this from my mom, my anxiety
Uh-huh.
kicks in at 7 a.m. I love going to sleep with a clean kitchen. I was exhausted. My husband was exhausted. I said, you know what? Let's just go to sleep. I could have forced myself to clean, but I didn't. And you know what happened? I woke up and it was okay. Nothing crazy happened. The world didn't end.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. What was your
I would
win?
s- it's something a bit similar, and it was just letting myself be off. As I mentioned, I had a bit of a cold this past week.
Yeah.
Um, I try to be as productive as I can. I always have a to-do list, but this past week I didn't get much done. I slept a lot, and for that I am
Nice.
thankful.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, so that was my win, to actually just letting myself be off
Mhm.
and not focus on productivity, but on productive resting.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, I needed that to feel myself again.
I hear you. And I'm thinking about my guilty pleasure. You go first because I have to think of one.
My guilty pleasure this past week was going to see Rent in concert.
Ooh.
So, Rent the musical has been a Broadway musical for 40 plus years. It's incredible. I had never seen it before.
Ooh.
So, the adaptation that we saw was in concert, where they're singing all the songs. They give you a little background story of what the scene is about, and then they sing the song. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. They're so talented. And also, they have a true following. Everyone was singing along. They
Oh,
knew all
yeah.
the songs. They're so powerful. It
Mm.
was, I just always love live events. They truly are quite powerful. And that was a guilty pleasure this past week. That was fun
Yeah.
to do.
You and your husband were going to a lot of plays.
We try because we don't do much. We don't go out much, but we like doing that.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So what was your guilty pleasure this past week?
My guilty pleasure was going to Target without a list.
Mm,
I
that's
love
dangerous though.
Target. I love Target so much, but I always go with a list and it's always a boring list. So I went to Target and I just shopped the aisles. I found myself getting a new comfy lounge set. I got some snacks that I needed to get. So it was fun. It was something that I haven't done in a while.
Oh, that's so nice. By the way, talking about comfy sets,
Oh,
um, the ones that I have on right now, it was encouraged by you the last time that we went to Target together.
oh yes, those are super comfy.
Yeah,
Super
they're so
comfy.
comfortable. So thank you so much for encouraging me to getting them.
Yes. Do you wanna
Okay,
do
so
the
let's
honors,
wrap it up.
Ellie? There's your one time. Okay.
Yes, I already said it.
Right.
So
So
with that said,
if you understand the psychology and still feel overwhelmed sometimes,
you're not failing. You're not broken.
you are not broken. And knowing better does not make you immune to being human. We are all human.
Yes, and being human means sometimes you spiral, and that's okay.
Right. And that's not the end of your growth. It does not mean that you are not growing as a person.
It might actually be part of it, of your growth.
Yeah. So, with all that said, I'm going to do the honors of assigning homework this week. Our homework this week, everyone, is to notice one moment where we want to analyze our feelings and instead just let yourself feel them for 60 seconds, 1 minute.
Yes, you deserve compassion from others and from yourself. And with that, we are Dobby and Christina. Thank you so much for listening, guys. And that's our episode today. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thanks.